Professor Mpache Timiko. Mr. Kofi Timiko.
Who am I speaking with?
This is Kofi Ayim on Jersey Ghana Radio.
Kofi, hello,
Ayim.
Kofi.
Yes. You are live, Honorable Samia Nkrumah on Jersey Ghana Radio.
That's right. This is Samia speaking.
Yes. And you are live with Jersey Ghana Radio from Newark, New Jersey. And welcome to our program, Anything Africa.
All right. Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Yes. Yes. And we will be joined in momentarily by Dr. Yi Obri Ado, who wrote a book about Ghana's first president. I believe you might have come into contact with him.
Uh-huh.
Dr. Yi Obri Ado. He is a professor at Drew University in Madison, New Jersey.
Okay.
We will also...
I don't know, so I can't remember meeting him, but by all means, I'll be happy to hear.
Sure. Within half hour, we will also be joined in by Dr. Seth Asuma, who is a distinguished professor at the State University of New York. He is also the chair of the Political Science Department. But for now, we will officially welcome you to Jersey Ghana Radio, located in Newark, New Jersey, with a branch station in the eastern region of Ghana. So as we speak now, we have a portion of our listeners from all over South Africa, the Caribbean, US, Europe, and of course some parts of Ghana listening to our program. And my name is Kofi Ayim. We have the co-MC is Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, who is also a professor of political science at the Seton Hall University. He's down with cold, but he's with us here, so he will speak today he'll be very minimal in his speak because he has cold now. And of course, our hard-working producer, Sadiq Abu Bakar, who puts on between him and Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, they bring our guests on our program. We do this every Saturday between 2 p.m. and 4 p.m. New York time or Eastern Standard Time, or 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Ghana time. But at least if you can give us any time from 30 minutes to 1 hour or so today, not more, will be so much appreciative. And then we can carry on with the other guests here. If you can give us an hour and a half, that would be so great. Because we know it's Saturday in Ghana.
An hour?
Well, 30 minutes, 1 hour, or whatever time you have.
Okay, my dear, yes. Because I'll be going out. And I told you we are going to do this a bit earlier. But come what may anyway, whatever happens, I'm here and I'm happy to join you.
Yes.
Fun.
30 minutes will even be excellent of your time. At least 30 minutes will be excellent because it is, like someone said, no matter how one hated Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, the independence of Ghana cannot be mentioned without associating his name to it, no matter what. So we know, and we also know that for those born in Ghana after maybe 1970, they know next to nothing or very little about the leader who gave Ghana independence. They might have read some things in the book, but as you know, Africans, we don't write our history much. So the younger generation, born from 1970 to this present time, know very little of our previous leaders. Your father, the Big Six, and our historians, Iframamu, and so on and so forth. And so for us, it is extremely important that we are getting the blood of our former president Nkrumah to be with us today, to share the perspective, to tell us what we did not know about the man. So maybe of course you may not know, how did your father went all the way to Egypt to date and marry a woman from Egypt, when there were plenty of women around him in Ghana and West Africa?
Indeed. Yes, indeed. But he didn't go to look for my mother. He actually sent some of his friends to go and find him a suitable Egyptian wife. You see? So we always used to joke and say this was a political marriage. But thank God it worked. You see, so what actually happened is that our father sent a few of his friends to Egypt to find him a wife. And they came across our mother's family in their search, but it took the intervention of the president then,
Nasser.
Yes, who shared a vision with our father. They were both Africans. They both believed that the first step controlling our economies and resources is to gain national independence. So they saw eye to eye on a few things. And I was saying that without the intervention of President Gamal Abdel Nasser, this marriage would probably not have taken place. So it is his intervention that convinced the family, that is our mother's family, that our mother would be well looked after. And mother says that he said they cannot say no to this great Ghanaian leader because he's the most influential leader in Africa at the time. So he was. That is Gamal Abdel Nasser in his attempt to convince the family. So that is really what happened. That mother came. She came down. She came to Ghana with her uncle, meet our father. They met at the airport. We sat together for about 2 hours or so, and they decided there and then to get married. So mother never went back.
Wow.
So her family, indeed, yes, she remained here in Ghana, and the rest is history.
Yes. Yes.
Please.
We are trying to get things that are not in books, things about your father and his legacy that are not in books, because our theme today is the legacy of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah and Pan-Africanism in contemporary Africa. And I think it's appropriate we start from now. I wish maybe your father had told you exactly why he went to Egypt. Yes, you could tell me political, but was he, for example, was he afraid, if I may use that word, that a Ghanaian woman could be influenced politically by the people of Ghana, and so therefore for him it would have been more suitable to get a non-Ghanaian wife?
Oh, I can't speak for this great leader. In fact, for me, he's our political master. Fortunately, I cannot speak for. We don't know. This question will remain unanswered. But if we go by many of his writings and his utterance and his policies, because this is how we've come to understand Osagyefo Kwame Nkrumah. Thank God he left a lot of work, written work. So it is not hard to understand the man, at least his political vision. People define Nkrumahism in different ways.
Yes.
He said that Nkrumahism is in his writings, in his speeches, and in his policies. So it is one way of getting to understand better what this great leader tries to do is simply to familiarize ourselves with his work. And that is what some of us started doing when we wanted to promote, when we started, let's say, promoting his vision and his ideas and his thoughts. So Kwame Nkrumah, by his own admission, was a Pan-Africanist.
Yes.
And even though this journey began in North America, when he came in contact with the students, with workers, with intellectuals in North America, and also out of his own experience as a black man studying and working in North Africa. But as soon as he successfully contributed and spearheaded, I would say, because I always say he was the catalyst for our independence. As soon as that happened, he, in his own words, brought Pan-Africanism to its original home, to the African continent, by beginning to hold a series of all-African meetings, all-African peoples, all-African independent states, all-African women's meetings. All these conferences or congresses, if you like, started taking place immediately after Ghana's independence. And that, of course, if you add to that all the practical help, moral, material, and political that Ghana gave to liberation movements and leaders of liberation movements all over the continent, we must conclude that Kwame Nkrumah was a Pan-Africanist brother in practice, in theory and in practice.
Yes.
And I think his very important work, Africa Must Unite, outlines very clearly what is his vision of a united, and yes, indeed, I must add, a socialist Africa. And I know the word socialist terrifies some people.
Yeah.
Understand it better if we know that it is simply giving power and ownership of what we have to the people. It is social ownership. It can be practiced in different ways, but that's the essence of it. To give the people more power, to give the people more of a say, and also to make them feel the benefit of their economy, the benefit of their God-given resources, So that was the idea, to lift us out of poverty and give direction, to enhance our political, our cultural, and our economic path as Black people in the world. And, leaders like Osagyefo made, I believe, a great contribution. Not a great contribution, and also they contributed by giving us these ideas that we must work with. I believe it is high time, actually, long overdue, that we re-examine and reassess his writings and his work. I think there is a need for them today more than ever, particularly amongst our young people who perhaps are not familiar with the vision of this great Pan-African leader.
And Honorable Samia, just a question on the family structure. Even though we're discussing about the legacy, I think it's so pertinent that we know. Could you describe yourself as a daddy's daughter? Were you a daddy's daughter?
Oh, unfortunately, I was not, because the last time I saw our father, I was not yet 6 years old.
Oh, wow.
So yes, so I'm afraid that as much as I would have loved it, I was not. Yes, like you, many others, I got to know the man better by reading his work, by talking with people, interviewing people who worked closely with him, and of course, from our dear mother, who told us a lot of things, that stuck in our minds from childhood, despite all the challenges and the difficult times, I would say, that she must have gone through, as a young woman who became separated from her husband after the illegal overthrow of 1966, and then being widowed, also a young woman. But despite all the difficulties, she imparted in us the love of father's vision, and also, patriotism. She took this courageous step to accept the invitation in 1975 to bring us back to Ghana, because, at the invitation of a champion government. And even though her family were worried about coming back, but she said she wants her children to learn, understand their country. This is what our father would have wanted, that we go to school here, and we are somehow connected and not disconnected from Ghana, his base. Because he used to say, yes, he's an activist before anything else, but this is Ghana. His Ghana was his base, and he wanted to make that base a model for development and productivity.
I see. Now, did your mother tell you how much influence, if you will, she had on her husband?
You know, we women, we are modest.
Okay.
We have smaller egos than you guys. So we
you lay back.
Mother was not actively political. She did a lot of social work, social intervention. I mean, I learn every day when I see that there are things that, unfortunately, we never reported some of the activities. I mean, we as Ghanaians, nobody did, you see. In our typical fashion, we ignored the woman a little. So there is not much written about what she was doing, when she was here as the First Lady. So there are a lot of things that have not come to light, but she did a lot of work. But she supported our father and she embraced whatever he did, his vision totally, despite the hardships, because he suffered almost 7 attempts on his life. And there are a number of them that he described to us, which had lasting impact, negative impact on his health, like the Kulungugu assassination attempt in 1962, in Flood House. That's when came immediately after, as he walked into Flagstaff House, coming up from the garden where the assassin missed him, but unfortunately managed to kill his bodyguard, Salifu Dagas. So at the time we didn't know, we only saw our father coming into the house covered in blood. But mother narrated the story to us later, a few years later, I would say, when we were a bit older. So I know that life couldn't have been easy, but despite that, I do remember our mother telling us a lot of good stories that reinforce the fact that she supported him politically in what he did, even though she was not actively engaged in his work. I think they probably, maybe that was a decision. Kwame Nkrumah did not, let's say he kept his family a bit separate he didn't believe in bringing his family too close in the limelight. And
Honorable Samia, I think we have Dr. Ado.
Hi, Samia.
Hello. Good
How are you? It's been a while.
evening. I know. I'm well and happy to hear your voice and to know that you are well.
Yes, and I've been listening to you, and I appreciate your coming on with that. But one question that is lingering in my mind was, what is the fascination between NASA and Nkrumah that motivated, actually influenced the marriage?
Okay, I believe I started by saying that they had a shared vision. You see, these two men were revolutionary, I would say, in the positive sense. They were both supportive of liberation movements at the time. They both believed in united Africa, and in fact, they were both also in the non-aligned movement. Yeah. So they believed in South-South cooperation. They believed in bringing the Northern Africa closer to Black Africa, if you will, or Africa south of the Sahara. So they had a shared vision. They wanted to do some work together. They were both anti-exploitation, anti-imperialist, strong leaders who had a clear idea about where they wanted to take their country. And Mother tells us this story when our father first saw the Aswan Dam in southern Egypt. He turned to Nasser and said, well, we are going to have also a very, big project in Ghana. I will make sure it's even better than this one. And so they had these leaders, those Pan-African leaders in our continent at the time, they shared a lot in common, and they exchanged notes. You see, they exchanged notes and tried to. I think they made a contribution to lifting many Africans out of underdevelopment and poverty.
I agree. One of the arguments has been that Nasser was one leader who tried to deal with that issue that Egypt was not part of Africa. He worked tirelessly, having North Africa, Nasser, and then West Africa, Nkrumah. These two people tried to see Africa as a continent. And I believe it's been argued that these two people, and since Nasser's time, we've not had that strong pan-Arab yet pan-African connection the way Nasser and Nkrumah did. Would you agree with that argument?
Indeed. And I think we miss that terribly. You see, it is not by chance that Ghana was the first country to recognize the Algerian
revolution. Yes.
And yes, we even had the great Frantz Fanon here in Ghana as an ambassador to the provisional government, or when Algeria was still fighting for its independence.
Yes.
And you just wonder if that level of cooperation and let's say close rapport had remained over the years. I think there would have been a better chance of the Organization of African Unity reaching, more success. If you remember, one of the Kwame Nkrumah, in his idea, in his opinion rather, one of the pillars was the common defense system. Common defense system, common foreign policy, and economic integration. He said, if we focus on these three things, these three components, then we would have a united Africa. So sometimes I wonder, with all the conflicts had since in the continent, can you imagine if with the support of North Africa and the whole continent, we would have had a strong army, an African army. I think things would have been a bit different. So you are right. It had reached almost the peak. The Afro, if I may use that term, Afro-Arab relations had reached a peak then. I understand that now in Egypt there's a lot of talk about Pan-Africanism, and that there's some kind of a revival, according to my brother Gamal Nkrumah, who's living there.
Oh, yeah.
Telling me there's kind of a revival and interest in Pan-Africanism. In fact, I am very happy that I've been invited by the Foreign Ministry of Cairo on Africa Day.
Wow.
This year, yes, in a few weeks. So let us see, let us see what is going to happen, and let us support, by all means, support that those closer relations, or the revival of those closer relations in any way we can.
Honorable Kwame Nkrumah, I hate to do this to you, but just give us a second. We have our third and last guest, Dr. Ted Asuma. I hope I pronounced the name correct. He is a distinguished professor.
Yeah.
Excellent. He's a distinguished professor at the State University of New York in Portland, and also he's a professor of political science and chair of the African Studies, or Africana Studies, at the State University of New York in Portland. Dr. Asuma, welcome to Jersey Ghana Radio, Anything Africa.
Thank you so much for welcoming me to this conference here. I've been listening so far, and it's been exciting to hear a lot of wonderful things about Kwame Nkrumah, his vision, and what he intended for Africa. And so I am very glad to join this group so that we can continue this discourse.
Yes.
Welcome, Dr. Asuma.
Thank you so much, sir.
And we just want our listeners to understand that this is a worldwide radio station, and we do this every week. And starting today, for the first time, this program is being transmitted on FM in Ghana, 102.3 FM, through a branch of Jersey Ghana Radio, which is located in Dewu, Ekuapem. Almost all of Eastern region, people in Eastern region have access to listen to it through FM. Some parts of Central region, including Mankesim and Kaswa, and I think Apam, I'm not sure, and Volta region, who I know, who Sogakope and those areas, and of course some parts of Accra. As you may know, Dewu is on a mountainous area, so the antenna is way high. Therefore, the wings of Jersey Ghana Radio would eventually stretch as far as an FM station can go. But besides that, we have our regular listeners from South Africa to the Caribbean. And in fact, we have to acknowledge this. Last week, we had Dr. Obri Ado on this very program, together with Dr. Leonard Jeffrey, and I've forgotten the other guests, because we discussed the direction of Africana studies in Africa and in the diaspora. So Dr. Briado had made 2 visits to Jersey Ghana Radio within a week, and we thank you so much. And we hope also, Dr. Zuma, this will not be your first and last. We hope through Professor Akono, you may be visiting us per phone as the topic demands. Ours is to re-educate our people. And as we are doing today, the theme is the legacy of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah and Pan-Africanism. And we'll give our esteemed professors chance to talk, including the co-host, Dr. Kwame Akono, who is bogged down with cold, but he will speak. But, Honorable Samia, I want to ask you one question before we continue with our narratives.
Yes.
Did your father own any property in Ghana or elsewhere?
Oh, that's another very important aspect of his life. Because, and again, want to start by remembering what our mother told us. The aftermath of the Kulungugu assassination attempt in 1962. many people don't know, he was hospitalized for a few days, and doctors had great difficulty removing the shrapnel, the lead from his back, because when the bomb exploded, his bodyguard pushed him on the ground so that he lies flat, believing that, it is the fact that that way he would somehow protect himself from the explosion. Now, so his back was full of that shrapnel, and they took a few days to try and remove as much as they could. But when he came out of hospital, he told mother he's not going to live long. He doesn't think he will live long because too much lead has entered his system. And mother, being a young woman, we were only two at the time, Gokey or Gamal and I. And she said, but what am I going to do? How am I going to take care of your children? Because you don't allow us to own anything. And he told her, he hoped that the party or a government would look after her, but she must not worry. And indeed, in dark days in Ghana, Kwame Nkrumah writes that if they had published the content of his will, because they ransacked his office in Flagstaff House after the illegal overthrow, and so in Dark Days in Ghana, the book he wrote after 66, he said that if they had published his will, they would have seen that whatever he had, he willed or bequeathed to the state, or the state and the party. And I was born in Kidwasi Lodge, in Abori. And if you know the history of that place, which is now a presidential house, it was given, the land was given to Kwame Nkrumah, and he started in a little place. He started building, but he gave it to the state. He gave to the state. He never bought it. So Kwame Nkrumah was, an unusually selfless African leader. But these were the demands of the time. If you were going to drastically change the society at the time, I think you had to be endowed with unusual, almost unusual characteristics, and one of them would be, the commitment and will to sacrifice. I think he was an epitome of that. He was a selfless leader who decided, he made a decision, I believe, to sacrifice to be able to take us to a different level. Unfortunately, his plan for Ghana was interrupted. The 7-year development plan was never completed, and there were subsequent plans too. Unlike if you know about the story in Singapore, where they actually took that plan and adapted it to their own country. But anyway, I think our father's personal life and his selflessness, I think somehow it's a clue, if you like, or it's a key to many of his political decisions. Is that whatever he did, he didn't do for his own benefit. We have to conclude at least, or we have to interrogate this. But I don't think there was any single decision that he made for his own personal gain. I think whatever ideological policies and decisions he made were for the benefit of the Ghanaian, the African, and the black man as a whole.
Well, let's go to Dr. Obriado. You wrote a book about Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, and in fact, I think, was it last month also, you presented a paper in your school, Drew University.
Yes, Kofi, I have made it a lifelong task to study Nkrumah, and growing up as a young man, young boy actually in the Ghana Young Pioneers, the fascination came back at the University of Ghana. And later on, when I came here to live and study at a doctoral level, it came back when one of my teachers said, unless Ghana come to grips with the Nkrumah phenomenon, Ghana will never make any progress. So that phrase, Nkrumah phenomenon. Now, listening and hearing Samia, what do you think is the future of the CPP? I'm raising this question because of what I've come to understand and know about the formation of the CPP as a mega Ghana, as a mega family that would actually replace the various ethnic, I'll try to avoid the word tribal ethnic groups too, rather raise it and build the whole country based on the CPP philosophy. So Samia, tell us a little bit about the history of the CPP and what do you think the future of the party will be now?
Yes, indeed. And I want us to recognize that it's never been easy. If we also familiarize ourselves with the history, with how difficult it was or challenging, to unite Ghana, with plebiscite or referendum in what we have now as the Volta region, bringing together the north, south, east, west. It was never easy. It was also not even easy to keep the party cohesive. Even when Kwame Nkrumah was president, and we also recollect that he even had some challenges from people who worked closely with him. Some of those who worked very closely with him, he actually had to dismiss certain ministers and then rehabilitate them, after a period of time. And some of even the young pioneers of the Winneba Institute even protested that he had to rehabilitate some of those ministers who, for want of a better expression, once had prayed. But I'm saying all this because there is no doubt, in my opinion, that we need to revisit Nkrumah's ideas and work and thought and ideology. And of course, it would have been easier if there was a genuine Nkrumahist force in Ghana today, because that would have been the vehicle through which Kwame Nkrumah's ideas would be made accessible and comprehensible to the younger generation, especially.
I agree with you. Yeah.
Yes. You can. Yes, by all means, feel free also to come in and interrupt me when you want. Unfortunately, the CPP that is today, which is the force that got its name, I believe, in the late 90s or 2000, just ahead of the 2000 elections. This CPP is, we cannot say it is exactly like Kwame Nkrumah's CPP, because he was leader and chairman, and he managed to, and general secretary too, so he managed to direct the ideology and policies of the party. What many of us returned home to join an Nkrumah cause, and that is why we came and joined the CPP. But today, with the experience having been in active politics and with the party for the last 7 years, I would say that we need an alternative force to our two main parties. But we need an alternative force which would be a force that gathers all those who believe, sincerely and seriously believe, that we need to re-examine Nkrumah's ideas and adapt them to today's changing circumstances. So we want to go beyond just the CPP membership, beyond the PNC membership, beyond the PPP membership, even as far as going into the NPP and NDC and getting those who are sympathetic to the ideas of Nkrumah, those who are not happy with the path that parties are taking right now. We need a truly all-encompassing, wider alternative source in Ghana that is inspired by Kwame Nkrumah's policy. And so, I think.
Okay, go ahead. Finish up. Sorry. Finish up.
Sana, would you agree with me that the time span between the dissolution of the party and the attempt to rebuild it was so huge that rebuilding it is a Herculean task, and it will take some commitment from those who truly believed in what Nkrumah tried to do to rebuild the party? Would you accept that perspective?
Yes, I do. It would take even sacrifice. I mean, serious sacrifice. Indeed, because, what happened to the party, if you think about it? Assets confiscated. Anyone who had anything to do with politics was either imprisoned or banned from doing politics in Ghana. As you know, in '79, nobody could stand even as a member of parliament. Otherwise, he was associated with the old CPP. So till today, the assets are confiscated. Till today, if we look at our indemnity clause, you cannot, or let me put it in a simpler way, Kwame Nkrumah is still considered illegal as a head of state of Ghana. Let us look very closely at that indemnity clause. You see, let us ask ourselves why today in Ghana and Africa, Kwame Nkrumah's books are not everywhere, are not accessible. We have to come to the conclusion, yes, indeed, as you are saying, with the 66 illegal overthrow and all what Nkrumah as an ideology, as a body of, of thought, ideas, is suppressed even till now. And unfortunately, there are some people who might even claim to be Nkrumah, who are themselves part of that suppression. I think we need to speak out. We need to speak out more courageous. We are embracing or re-embracing democracy. There are certain things that we need to let's say to condemn. And one of them, and I said that in our constitution, 1992 constitution, that we cannot, nobody can actually legally challenge the formation of the NLC that topples the democratically elected government of the CPP as leadership. I marvel. There are things we still have. or what about our airport? How can it be named after one of the leaders of our first overthrow of a democratic elected government? It beats me. I don't understand. I am sure if there's a referendum, people would express it. And I think we need to understand why certain things are happening, and we need to make a link between what we uphold legally, constitutionally, and the poverty of our knowledge about what Kwame Nkrumah tried to do or started to do. And we need to do that because I believe our salvation as a country and survival depends on us re-examining, revisiting Kwame Nkrumah's ideas, economic plans, and so on.
Let's
thank you, Samia. I'm moving on. Let my colleague come in. Samia, I will connect with you later on. But thank you very much. Thank you. I'll see you in Ghana soon. Thank you so much. Thank you. Right. Thank you.
Let us get Dr. Hello. Let's get Dr. Asuma. Dr. Asuma on here, at least with the legacy of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. Yes, distinguished Doc Asuma, please come in here now and enlighten us about.
Yeah, thank you very much for bringing me on, and it's a pleasure. Before you started, you talked about your efforts in reaching all sort of places around the world, and this broadcast is so very, very important, both in Ghana and the rest of the world. So I'd like to commend you for this effort in the discussion of the legacy of Otajifo, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. I've enjoyed listening to Samia's account. I know she was 6 when Nkrumah left, and perhaps around 12 years old when Nkrumah died. But she has done well in recounting what Nkrumah did, even at that very, very young age until this time. So she has been also a student of her own father, which is pretty interesting observation. But before I continue, I'd like to cite off something from Nkrumah in his book, written in 1964, on conscientism. And Nkrumah said that the social revolution must be supported by an intellectual revolution, a revolution in which our thinking and philosophy are directed towards the redemption of our society. And I believe we are doing just that right now. This is a real legacy. I heard you talking about some more experts and scholars, and it's impressive to hear them all on this broadcast, so that we can continue with that legacy that Nkrumah mentioned as far back as 1964. He himself, as we all know, influenced from Lincoln University and, of course, University of Pennsylvania. And he brought something with him that we continue to say. The notion of an African and African personality is something that we have. It's a work that is unfinished, and we have to continue to finish that work. And so I see that with many of my colleagues on the podcast, that we have a lot to do. And I just read something from David Rooney, who published a book on Kwame Nkrumah, Vision and Tragedy, in 2013. And even Rooney said something about Kwame Nkrumah was highly controversial figure. Interestingly, people still continue to figure out how controversial Kwame Nkrumah was. Yet still, the notion that he was big on uniting the continent, Africa, is unprecedented, and no one has ever done that.
Your call has been put on hold. Please wait.
And so, I can go on and on. I just wrote a forward to 2017, what I call a cover forward, a blurb of 2017 book written by Professor Gordon of Florida International University called Revisiting Kwame Nkrumah. And what I saw was the approach of Nkrumah on the Africanization project, which is not done because of the future of globalization. But this process has been marshaled by the reconfiguration of African personality and policy, which set Professor Gordon's book, Kwame Nkrumah, apart from other books that are read on Kwame Nkrumah. So the vision is clear. We just have to continue to do what we need to do to consolidate this vision that was sent and set out towards very long ago by Kwame.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. You are listening to Jersey Ghana Radio's Anything Africa, our weekly intellectual discourse every Saturday between the hours of 2 p.m. and 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The producer has signaled to me that at 3:15 we have to take a music or commercial break, whichever he will choose. That is Abu Bakr, Sadiq Abu Bakr. For our listeners who want to call in with questions and comments, the number is 973-409-6422. 973-409-6422. And of course, if you are listening in Ghana on our trial frequency, it's 102.3 megahertz. That is in FM Ghana. We don't know the wavelength we are transmitting on, but at least we know the frequency. We have here Dr.
You have $7.85 remaining in your account. Please enter the telephone number you wish to dial now, or press *0 to recharge and hear the main menu options.
We lost the star now.
Please enter the telephone number you wish to dial now, or press *0 to recharge and hear the main menu options.
Sadiq. I think we lost contact of everyone.
Please enter the telephone number you wish to dial now, or press *0 to recharge and hear the main menu options.
Can you hear me?
Yes, hello?
Hello?
Yes. Dr. Suma?
I'm back.
Please enter the telephone number you wish to dial now, or press *0 to recharge and hear the main menu options.
Can you come in because hello?
Hello?
Sadiq, can you come in as we try to push some buttons here, please?
Please enter the telephone number you wish to dial now, or press *0 to recharge and hear the main menu options. Goodbye.
Hello?
Yes, Seth. Seth still there?
Yes, I'm still here.
This is Kwame. How are you today?
Okay, Kwame, I'm doing well, thank you.
Oh, my brother. Is somebody else still there?
No, Samia is done, but we're still on and there was a little interruption.
Yeah, okay, so why don't you complete your thought? on the legacy.
Yeah, Dr. Asuma, please go ahead. Yeah.
Yes, I've been talking about the nature of the legacy earlier, and I mentioned something that Kwame Nkrumah himself gave us, borrowing from Black nationalist literature and his own vision about what he saw in Harlem, and also what he learned and read from Marcus Garvey and W.E.B. Du Bois. But Nkrumah's vision was very, very deep. Part of what I saw is how to redefine traditional African society. Nkrumah mentioned three principles that we have to continue to revisit. And among these three principles, he talked about traditional Africa, the impact of westernization, and also the effect of sometimes Islam on the African continent, something that we are beginning to recently realize that Nkrumah has this vision very, very long ago, as far back as 1964. And now Islamization has been a big thing, and also Islamophobia, not just in the Middle East, but also on the continent of Africa. Nkrumah gave us a forewarning that how to be dealing with that very, very long ago. He also talked about how Africans have to deal with the notion of capitalism itself. And capitalism that tends to conflict with sometimes socialist egalitarianism. It's a way to find how Africans can be located on the cosmos, for example. When we talk about Africana cosmology, it's about allocation of this universe on Earth. And what is the value we assign to how to improve what Nkrumah called the African personality? How far have we gotten with that project of African personality? It's something that we have to get together and continue talking about.
Yes, thank you so much, Dr. Asuma.
Hello.
Yes, we have Honorable Samuel Nkrumah back online, and we also have one of the greatest admirers of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, who is Mr. Siddiq Y. He is the father of our producer, and he is also a policy analyst and an advisor to the New York City Police Commissioner. Brother Siddiq Y, welcome again to Jersey Ghana Radio.
Thank you very much, brother. Thank you all. Thank you to your guests, and I've been listening attentively. Welcome. Thank you so much.
And your take on the legacy of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, Africanism, Pan-Africanism.
Well, I could actually, especially those of us who have left our countries and come overseas, and they call us the diaspora. I think the late Dr. Kwame Nkrumah's vision was one that was ahead of everybody's time. Those of us who really believe in the unification of Africa are not looking at Africa from a regional, sectional, tribal sense, clearly follow the examples that he set, that Africa should be one, and that what affects one section of Africa affects all, and only through a collective energies, collective support, through intellectual, economic cooperation among these countries, are we going to be able to survive. And I can clearly relate to one of the things that he said, and I think it is very true today, that political independence without economic independence, it's not independence at all. And that message resonates as we speak today. So it really beholds all of us who are sons and daughters of the continent, really not just talk about what the vision of the late Dr. Kwame Nkrumah was, but to really be active participants and practitioners of this, to speak truth to power, to look at Africa for what it is, and to be able to be critical of those leaders who have enriched themselves at the expenses of the poor. That, I don't think, was anything that conforms to the vision and the values that the late Dr. Kwame Nkrumah shared.
Well, 97340964222 for those our worldwide listeners, and if you're in Ghana, you want to chime in, please. You may dial 0270393339. Once again, 0270393339. 23. One more time. For those in Ghana, you want to contribute or ask questions, 0207 393 339. And let's go to Honorable Samia Nkrumah. Are you still with us?
Yes, I'm here. Yes,
okay, excellent. You were in Parliament, Ghana's Parliament, right?
Yes, indeed. In 2008, 09 to 2012. Yes.
Okay. Now, in terms of your experience in Ghana's Parliament, as regards to the Pan-Africanism of your father, do you see? And I'm trying to drive at a point. Do you see Ghana's Parliament as trying at least on the concept of what the last contributor said, on the concept of unification of Africa, or it has never been part of the vocabulary of Ghana's Parliament at all? I know we have ECOWAS Parliament, but in terms of Ghana's Parliament, was there any time that someone brought that thing up? And I'm driving at a point.
I know. I can imagine what you're driving at.
Okay.
And in fact, what Mr. Sadiq said is that you rightly said there's a Pan-African Parliament. And the problem is not so much with what we say or don't say, but actually the problem is what we don't do. Pan-Africanism, as Kwame Nkrumah once said, is an objective for the total liberation and unification of the continent. So it's an objective we have to reach. We have to work hard at reaching it. Now, one of the things we must do, as we heard, is to fight against any kind of exploitation, whether it's internal or external. We are not doing that sufficiently. So we can sometimes, of course, say even some nice things. We can say the right thing, but it's really what we do. And I think until Pan-Africanism, our history, our tradition, our not just political, economic, cultural, and social and political path, and until we comprehend that from an early age as children, I think it will be very difficult for us to understand why Africans must unite. We need to introduce Pan-African studies at a very early age. It shouldn't be a topic for leadership. at various levels. I think it should be a topic amongst us in our society because we need to understand the economic gain, the cultural gain that will accrue to us from working together, from standing together, from having one voice, one big, loud African voice in world affairs today. We need to understand it very well. And one of our speakers touched upon conscientiousness, which actually, the full name of that book is Conscientiousness, which is a philosophy and ideology for decolonization. So the essence of this to understand why we are Africans, we have our traditional ideas, but we reject the influences, Islam, the Christian, you're a Christian or other influences that somehow have come to us in our way of employing all these, embracing these differences and employ them for the development of our and prosperity of our people. It's a call for unity, actually, a serious call for unity, so that we can decolonize our minds, our everything. And indeed, economic independence is the next struggle. Or we are in it, as we say, we like to say, we are actually in it. Because until we can free ourselves from exploitation, until we can be masters and mistresses of our own economy, our own risk, it will be very difficult for us to deliver to our people. And deliver, when I say deliver, the basic needs, and deliver in Africans everywhere, because like we rightly heard, whatever happens, I believe, to one African anywhere in the world has an impact on Africans everywhere. So we need to, I think we need to bring Pan-Africanism to our home. What it is, the social liberation from form of exploitation and unification of African people.
Let's get the co-host, who is also a political science professor, here in there. So, Dr. Akono, your take. I know you
yes,
with the cold, but you can.
That is fine. Not too bad. I have a question for Samia, Seth, as well as Siddiq. Kwame Nkrumah had a very complex relationship with international capital. Actually, it was the first government to approach the IMF. What's your take about it? People don't even know that he approached the IMF for loans.
Yes. Can I speak now?
Please, you can speak, then I guess the other guests can come in.
Okay. Indeed, Kwame Nkrumah did approach the IMF for loans. And in Dark Days in Ghana, there's a chapter called The Big Lie.
Go ahead. Hello? Hello?
Hello?
I am here. Maybe we lost her.
Yeah, I think so. I think maybe she's back. Hello, Honorable Samia? Hello? Maybe as we try to reconnect, we may either Dr. Asuma or Brother Siddiq. Maybe you may want to join in.
I think my brother Kwame just always picks on his brother, but that's okay. But let me take a crack. I want to take it local because he knows we always speak the truth. If you look at if you look at actually Africa in general, every country in Africa feels that they have to go to the IMF, seek loans. And IMF does not give loans to African countries without conditions or preconditions. And these conditions, if you look at them, I'm sure Kwame will agree with me, they are clearly antithetical to the development of Africa. It's underdeveloped Africa.
Absolutely.
To a large extent, even today, there are still African countries who are seeking begging international partners who have given them loans, because don't forget the IMF is theoretically, practically controlled by the United States. Let's just be clear about that. So when you go there, they are looking at, number one, what is in the national interest of the donor countries? And number two, let's say they're giving you money for road construction. You got to buy the caterpillars from their country. You got to get the technical people who run those things to lay the bridges, to the materials that you're going to use to buy, to construct those roads must come from their country. So what do we have? We only have manual labor, which does not amount to much. And yet, they saddle us with the loans for generations to come. As we speak, I know of a country right now that just came 2 weeks ago, and where did they go? They went right into that well also to be able to borrow money so that they could bring their country back from what it was. But now, what are the things that we are really not focused on, and which is really should be part of it, is IMF was really honest enough and truthful enough and want to help the development of our continent. Whenever these dictators, these people, these leaders who have embezzled the assets of the country, IMF say to those people, give this loan, but guess what? Going to collateralize this loan. All the monies that these people have stolen, they know where these monies are. They could track them. They know where they are. But it is in their national interest that the loot that these people take from our countries, from our continent, where do they put them? Into their bank. And it does not benefit anybody in Africa, but it benefits the West. So we really have to look. I think part of the reason why people were kind of jittery about Gaddafi was because Gaddafi wanted to create his own, an African IMF. Let us run our own economies. We have gold, diamond, bauxite, rutile, iron ore. Why do we have to borrow money when we have these assets? But because the leaders who do not really care about their country, but they care about themselves, go into these loans, to get these loans with a clear understanding that after 5-10 years, they're going to go and they're going to go into the sunset, well, in complicity, taking those assets and just impoverishing our countries. That is unacceptable. But it's happening all the time. So IMF is not the friend of Africa. IMF contributes to the underdevelopment of the continent of Africa. We got to find another way. And I think the way is clear.
Well, thank you, brother.
Dr. I'd like to add something to this, because your question is about also people not knowing that Kwame Nkrumah went to the IMF for a loan. And Nkrumah was, as David Rooney once told us, sometimes can be controversial in its own approach. But this controversy is guided by a brilliant intellectual acumen. For example, Nkrumah told us in his book in Conscientism that everything that exists as complex and complexity of forces. Okay? So if Nkrumah needs money to support the 7-year development plans or the many development plans that he propounded but were never finished, he has to do what was prudent to keep him going. So his approach to the IMF or trying to get support his development project should not be taken as if he is reducing in form and thinking to his own position that capitalism will conflict with what we call socialist egalitarianism of the traditional African society. You know, Nkrumah told us that, and he knows that so well. He has nothing against capital because capital can become part of the socialist nation state. What he has perhaps against was capitalism, and that was his problem. No, not his problem, I'm sorry. That was the vision that sometimes people mistake. Nkrumah going for a loan to be subscribing to capitalism per se, and I don't believe that was his vision. He was doing what was prudent at that time.
Right. Thank you so much, Dr. Asuma. Now, let's go. It's 3:22. We're closing at 4 or just a few minutes before 4. But the number to call if you have question or comment, if you are in Ghana, is 0270 393 339 0270 393 339. Elsewhere, especially the US 973-409-6422. We have Dr. Obri Ado rejoin us, and let's go on. I believe all of us want African unity. Now, Dr. Ado, is African unity a mirage? Because Dr. Kwame Nkrumah and the pioneers, if you will, wanted African unity. As it is now, in terms of Pan-Africanism, is African unity a mirage?
Well, don't forget that Nkrumah and others like NASA began to talk about African unity, African Union, even before Europe, before European Union here. But the question is, if you take the case of a small place like Ghana, unless and until we see the need, and Nkrumah was very, very insistent, unless we come together, there is strength in numbers. There is strength in numbers. It is not too late. Dr. Suma was very, very right in talking about Nkrumah's pragmatism, as it were, going to the IMF, knowing what was good for Ghana at that point. So he didn't negate capitalism as such. He believed that we needed capital to do this and that. That's number. Number two, it is no coincidence that one person who carried on the vision of trying to bring Africa together was Gaddafi. You may love him, you may hate him, but in a way he picked up the pieces and used his own resources to further the goals of the pioneers of continental African unity as well as Pan-Africanism. But you also know what happened to Gaddafi. Is it a case that anyone who stands up to do what these pioneers try to do will end up the same way? Eventually, who build the OAU headquarters for Africa? China puts in this money to build the new headquarters for. And so it is possible, but there is so much work to be done. Kofi, you know it, and I know it, that it is much easier to destroy than to build. And once your original ideas were put aside out of pettiness from various leaders at that time, people argue that Nkrumah was insistent on unity because he wanted to make himself the president of Africa, and so on and so forth. And so, yeah, Kofi, the jury is still out. I'm not very sure where we're going to go. But unless and until there's a need, we have to. We have to. Finally, let me also say this, that one thing that we need to understand and then also argue will be Nkrumah's insistence on the primacy of politics. His whole concept of seek ye first the political kingdom, the primacy of politics, and then others will follow. Here's my critique of Nkrumah, whether the economic issue was secondary to his political vision. Once he got the political vision, he tried to now accelerate the economic vision. And maybe that's where the West also got him, to undermine him, to undercut him. Cocoa prices were down. He was trying to get the capital to develop that he never got. So, Kofi, I answered your question without answering your question. I'm not very sure.
Well, it's good enough. I think this must be Sister Mambo. Mambo, if it's you, let's get a take. Hello? 8823, the last 4 digits. Hello?
Brother Kofi.
Yes.
We have the Honorable online, and I believe my dad is also online.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm trying to. Okay, the last 4 digits, 8823. If that person may come on.
Do we still have Samia or she left?
That's me.
Okay.
Oh,
okay. Yes, you want to chime in? Whether African unity is a mirage?
I really think that, from the days of the late Kwame Nkrumah to now, there has been tremendous amount of changes on the continent, and the problems that he faced or the continent faced in those days are a little bit different as we see them today. And my one and only hope, and I think my brother Kwame always talks about that, is that we cannot idolize the fact that we have a glorious continent and so forth. There is a lot that we could do. We could start doing something, because people who are outside of Africa have a tremendous amount of contribution to make. But we need to be united here as well. We cannot see an issue developing in Ghana, for instance, and say, okay, we are Sierra Leoneans. That's not our problem. Or vice versa. Look at Gambia. What just happened in Gambia? That issue is not isolated, because if you look at across the continent, the same things are happening. I really believe, and I will pray, that all these intellectual giants that we have, these progressive thinkers, these people who are students of Pan-Africanism, who believe in what Dr. Kwame Nkrumah started. He didn't finish it, but it is up to us now, as sons and daughters of a proud continent, to say we need to play our part. And that by playing that part, it has to be twofold. One, we have to insist that every country in Africa, the continent, diaspora should be voting in their countries, in elections. That's number one. And number two, we need to seriously also consider investing in our countries economically. Those two things, if we do it, we created our own way of directly influencing what happens in our continent. Diaspora becomes a factor. But right now, they don't even have to deal with us. It is our job, our responsibilities to work together, because there are some progressive thinkers on the continent. We need to partner with them. We need to be engage these people. Sierra Leone is having its own election in 2018. Right now, they are fighting over biometrics, how to register people. So the same thing happened in Ghana, but thank God Ghanaians did what they had to do. and change the government through a democratic process. So we need to be involved, engage with leaders on the ground, say, hey, we are here. We want to participate, and let them create an avenue for us to legally participate in the electoral process.
Well, I think, Brother White, you are probably touching nerves here, because Ghanaians in the diaspora, up till now, cannot vote, even though the law has been passed in Parliament. It was passed in Parliament long time ago, but it is yet to be implemented. Hopefully, the current government may do something about it, because President Nana Akufo-Addo, on his West African tour, which I think he's still doing, said, I believe either in Togo or Ivory Coast, that they were going to move heaven and earth to involve the diaspora, Ghanaian diaspora, to vote. In fact, the money that African countries, just as you say, the economic power, the total sum of money that Africans in the diaspora send to African countries, it's unbelievable. Yet, some countries such as Ghana, Salo, and Red, they are not involved in the processes. Is that taxation without representation? Where did we hear that? Boston Tea Party? And it's still happening in Africa, some parts of Africa.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, it is true. And Honorable Samia has joined us. Maybe let's throw this question to. Do you think it is fair that Africans in the diaspora are not involved in the political process vis-a-vis voting? Some African countries such as Ghana and the rest that they are still struggling for?
Yeah, I think it's unacceptable. It's unacceptable. And this is one of the ways, if Africans abroad do vote, I believe that this is one of the ways which will make issues of a greater concern. So we are going to add our voice. I mean, through whichever vehicle, we will add our voice to those votes. It is the same thing with the fact that till today in Ghana, not in, say, in Senegal, but I know in Ghana, we still do not vote to elect our mayors. How can mayors of big cities like Accra, Kumasi, Sunyani, Tamale not be elected? So there's a lot of work we have to do with our in our democracy. Yes, we are enjoying stability, but these are some of the issues which we really have to work harder. But I don't know if you heard me when I said that Kwame Nkrumah did not accept the conditions of the IMF in the 60s. But let me say that Kwame Nkrumah did not exclude foreign capital, but he kept a very careful balance. What he was trying to do was simply for us to have that independent economy that will enable us to prioritize the needs of our citizens and not a foreign concern somewhere. So I just wanted, in case I wasn't, and his writings make all these points very clear. That is why I want them more readily accepted. We need to have the courage to consolidate our democracy. I am sure as that happens, I think the voice of the true African, I think, will be stronger. We need to be able to allow more of our people to participate in decision making from the lowest point, whether it's the community, to the highest level. I think we need to work at that, on making sure our people have a say at the lowest level even in how our budget, whether at the district level or elsewhere, is spent. We need to, I think, to make sure that this democracy we are very proud about is actually it becomes stronger and more real. So, and we are all for the outside the continent voting. I think it's painful.
Let me throw in off the wall question a little bit. But it's still about Kwame Nkrumah's legacy anyway. We know how he was overthrown by the combined forces of military and police and you name it. But when you go to Ghana, you land at an airport called Kotoka International Airport. Kotoka was the leader of the military, the combined forces that overthrew Kwame Nkrumah's government. I believe Africans are now frowning over military coups. Do you believe that we should still have Kotoka's name attached to the premier entry point of Ghana? Anyone can jump in. It's not to you in particular.
I made my position clear on that. I think early on in the program, I think I spoke against that, and I'm hoping that something will be done, that we collectively decide.
Can you raise your voice a little bit? We didn't hear you well.
Yes, I was saying I made my position very clear on that. We've been calling for a change of the name, the airport, because I believe it's also another unacceptable thing for our airport to be named after one of the leaders of the overthrow, the illegal overthrow of a democratic government. So I think we have to look at it. I referred also to our indemnity clause. There are a few things we need to look at to consolidate our democracy, and also to remove that slow suppression on Kwame Nkrumah's thought. I think we need to look at, when I say let us revisit his writings and ideas, I think when we do that, a lot of things will become clearer. And there are textbooks till today that refer to Kwame Nkrumah as a dictator. The only head of state we've had who's referred to in these terms. So there is a particular, there's a particular injustice that's still meted out to Kwame Nkrumah and his legacy. And we need to integrate that. We don't have to agree with everything he did, but we need to understand exactly what he said and his policies better than the situation now. So let us read Nkrumah. One thing I know, it will make you very strong, and it makes you very proud to be a black person. But I think in the course of reading him and getting acquainted with his ideas, I think we will be able to free ourselves from many of the misconceptions we have about our history.
African unity.
Yeah.
Africanism.
If I can throw in something very, very quickly about International Airport. This is Dr. Azuma here.
Go ahead, please. Go ahead.
Yes, I believe that social change involves unlearning, learning, and relearning. It is interesting that we in the diaspora here on many campuses have recently signed a petition to stop University of Ghana from putting the statue of Gandhi, right on the campus of University of Ghana? What about Kwame Nkrumah and what about other people? So if we can do a petition to inform the authorities down there that we don't need Gandhi's statue. As you know, Gandhi was pretty racist in South Africa and other places, and where he has said things about black people. Mm-hmm. We don't need Gandhi's statue on the campus of the University of Ghana. We can do the same by revisiting the name of the entry point of everybody who comes to Ghana, which is the international airport, is something that is more welcoming than someone who staged a coup, what we call Praetorian politics in political science. And if you can remember the rise and fall of the Roman Empire, it started by when soldiers took over the Roman Senate and they brought it down. And anytime a soldier gets involved in politics, something different happens. And it is not, again, unwelcoming to have a soldier who staged a coup to be named after the entry point of a democracy such as Ghana. Yet we have not consolidated democracy yet, so we have work to do. And I know you had a question. I am going to chime in with a number of things that we need to do for African unity and also democratic consolidation. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Asma. Please, let's see if we can hear from our callers, both from Ghana and elsewhere. 973-409-6422. 973-409-6422. We have roughly like 15 minutes to go. Or if you are in Ghana, 0270-393-339. Not full of the number. 0270-393-339. You are listening to Jersey Ghana Radio's Anything Africa. We have with us Dr. Seth Asuma, distinguished professor of the State University of New York and chair of Ghana Studies at Scotland. We have Honorable Kwame Nkrumah, a former member of Parliament, Ghana's member of Parliament, and a daughter of the late President Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. We have Brother Sadiq Y, who is an advisor to the New York City Police Commissioner and also a policy analyst. And the co-host has come down with cold. He has a bug, so he doesn't want to talk much. And of course, our hard-working producer, Sadiq Abu Bakar, working behind. And in fact, we are being hosted. What I mean is the machines are being operated from in the eastern region of Ghana with one of the producers and also the radio host there called Odey Papebi. He's pushing the knobs. We're talking while he's doing this. You know, the power of technology. We have to say special thanks to our sister satellite station in the eastern region of Ghana. Let me throw something here, and I would like Brother Sadiq Y. Not that we are picking on you today, but of course we want your input all the time. Anytime you come on show after we finish, I personally get calls. Who is this and all that? Once again, the president of Ghana, in his tour of West Africa, recently suggested that the French language should be made compulsory in Ghana schools, from basic to maybe, high school. The French language. A professor of the Institute of African Studies in Legon came out to say, no, not so quick. Why don't we make African languages, or some major ones, compulsory. We are talking about African unity here, and we are trying to tie it in, assuming without taking into consideration that Africa has really united. Do we still follow the colonial stuff of English language, French language, maybe Portuguese language at the expense of maybe Yoruba, Swahili, Igbo, Hausa, and the major languages? Open to you all anyway, brother Sadiq. I give you reprieve. Anyone can answer that, please. And we're talking about Africa unity here. Should we unite and still use foreign language as official languages at the expense of African language, which may be extinct, maybe after we are dead and gone?
Well, I think the professor was onto something, saying that we should kind of find a common language that we could all understand and communicate. But the problem is, even within our country, look at Ghana. Let's take Nigeria, for instance. There are about 100 different languages spoken in Nigeria. In Sierra Leone, 13. And I'm sure the same applies to Ghana and different parts. So it is really very, very difficult to unify around one. Well, people have been saying Swahili and things of that nature. That is all well and good. But what I would think would be the right people need to consider. We can communicate in French. We could communicate in English. I think the actual thing that we need to look at, setting priorities, putting together a vision that is Pan-African, and it does not matter which section of Africa you come from. Once those principles are adopted in those countries, such as what we said earlier on, particularly I'm talking particularly about the diaspora. There is absolutely no reason why diaspora Africans from Ghana could not vote in elections. Sierra Leone have also gotten those in the books, but it's still not happening. Ivorians vote. People from Benin vote here.
Yes.
Guineans are voting. So progressive countries like Ghana, Nigeria, and those kind of places, we need to find a universal code of conduct and behavior, at least for the diaspora to have an input into the political process. They cannot continue to take money from us. Most of these economies today, despite what people think, the remittances of Africans from every part of Africa in this part of this Western Hemisphere outnumbers what they get in foreign aid. But that's a huge amount of revenue that is going to our countries. So as somebody said earlier on, we are being taxed, but we are not represented. That is unacceptable. So I hope that people like Honorable Nkrumah, Samia Nkrumah, we could use a leader on the ground to mobilize something like that, and then making sure that if that is a campaign, we will all support that effort globally to make it happen. And again, let me just thank the producers of this program. You have been just wonderful. You give us some education every week. And Kofi, Kwame, and my son, you are the true Pan-Africanists, and I just want to say thank you. And thanks to the other guests.
Thank you, brother Sadiq. Why? A quick one. Your article that you wrote is being published in Amandla, which I am the editor. It will hit the market, I think, on Tuesday, so you get a copy. Now let's go to the others about what the president of Ghana suggested in terms of Pan-Africanism.
Kofi, Brother Kofi.
Yes.
This is so very, very important, and use the term, I am mildly nauseated in speaking to you in English. And we are speaking to ourselves on this broadcast. What language? English language, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it is practical. Ghana is surrounded by 3 French-speaking countries. In order for us to communicate and do business, we also have to be practical. I am not discounting the fact of Africanization process where we have to change our names and change our languages and act in the accord of searching for what Nkrumah told us about the African personality.
Okay.
But yet, the world is changed. We are too far in running around trying to romanticize issues that are not realistic. And this language issue, as a lingua franca, the way of doing formal business, it will not hurt at all to add French. But we should not also discount teaching and learning other African languages in Ghana. And that is my take on that.
Thank you. Co-host, I know you are good at these things. What do you suggest? Or maybe he's still down with cold. What have we got? 9 more minutes to go. So 973-409-6422, or if you are in Ghana, what's the Ghana number again? Ghana number is, wow, is it gone? 0270-393-339. 0270-393-339. Honorable Samia, are you still with us?
Yes, I'm still here.
Yes, we wanted to hear your opinion on this language issue, which is, should Africa unite? Should Africa unite? Must we use English and or French as official language as against any major African language, taking into consideration the sheer population of even Nigeria, and it's an English-speaking country. Taking into consideration also that the former Soviet Union had so many languages, but Russian language was made official language that everyone could read and write. And also, as a follow-up, must we remain illiterate? Because the UN defines illiteracy as people who cannot read and write their own language. So how many of us are illiterate? I'm an account. I can write tree, honestly. So according to the definition, I am so illiterate. And Dr. Swan said about trade. Yes, trade is true, but nations have been able to trade on different languages. How effective, I don't know. But they have used some means to trade. Honorable Samia, your take.
Yes, very, very important issues. Let me start by saying, if you look at Ghana, every Ghanaian speaks more than one language, 2, 3, some even 4. Okay? So, these issues of what language, I think they're not mutually. We need to be practical, as we heard, but we need to also enrich our knowledge of ourselves. So we need to standardize our African languages. It is very important, but not just that. Know our history properly, our culture, but we need to also, when we speak into history. I believe we'd be proud about that. But we also know where we have to correct some societal behavior. But the number one thing is we need to familiarize ourselves with who we are. So it's not just the language. It's very important that we learn our languages and use them more. But that doesn't mean we cannot learn English and French. I mean, there are some small countries like Holland or Denmark where people speak their own language and write it, but they also teach other origins. We have to be practical and we have to work hard than everybody else because we are far behind. So there is no harm to do French at an earlier age, but we need to also have our own language. I think we can do it. We are strong and we are intelligent. But as I said, most importantly, we need to catch up. We have a lot to catch up. I think Kwame Nkrumah, when he message the black people of Britain, I think he said he was talking about black power and how it is the sum of our economic, our culture and political power, which the black man, woman, of course, must have in order to achieve our survival, highly developed technically, and in a world that is ravaged by imperialism and new colonialism. Right? So to get out with every armory, every weapon to defeat this exploitation. So let us just put it in our mind that we need to work harder than anyone else.
Well, let's get. Go ahead, please. Go ahead. Hello.
Hello, Kofi.
Yes.
Yes. Dr. Adu, hold on. Let Honorable finish. Honorable Samuel, we know you are there now.
Yes. Okay. And as I said, over and above everything else, we need to know our history. We need to focus on learning our history, because it's something that I find something to connect. And we need to take the Africanization of our in a very, very, as I said, it's not mutually. We can learn about what's happening in the world, but you definitely need to be grounded in who you are. And it's something we would have started after our independence. But again, it's something we want to the encyclopedia African project that was going to take place on African soil by African scholars from all over the world was something that ended after the illegal.
Thank you, Honorable Samia Nkrumah. We have a culture on this program, which is we are almost at the end of the program, but we give chance for our guests and our panelists to do like not more than a minute summation, and then please don't go. Sadiq Abubakar would officially end the program. So let's go with Dr. Yi Obriado, your closing remark. Not more than 1 minute because it's almost 4 o'clock.
Thank you, Honorable Samia. Thank you to hear your voice and your perspective. But I go back to what has been destroyed, the CPP party, and how to rebuild it, and the next generation through your other siblings. And we are with you in terms of number one, number two, with you in terms of building our history. But my question is, right now, and I don't think we have a history. We have histories. and how to develop all these perspective histories. So every ethnic group would understand that we are part of a mega country, a mega ethnic group that Nkrumah tried to rebuild. So through your voice, we hope that the vision will be recaptured. So we thank you so much for coming on this.
Thank you. Dr. Adu, don't go yet, please. That's our culture. Let's go to Brother Siddiq. Why? Is he still with us? We may not have Brother Siddiq. Why? He might have left us. So then, we'll go once again to Honorable Samia Nkrumah. Your closing remark. 1 minute.
Number one, I appreciate all those who study and examine Kwame Nkrumah's ideology and thinking. I think you are making us proud, and we are grateful for your deep thinking on these issues. And number two, I'm tactical, and I feel some of us have given a homework, and we are going to take it very seriously. And I'm referring to the issue of or legalizing or allowing Africans outside the vote. So I just want to signal that fact as we came down, and we are going to take it very seriously. We are going to champion that.
Thank you. Now, go ahead, please.
That is all.
All right. Well, I wouldn't do the thank you. It will be Siddiq. But let's go to Dr. Seth M. Asuma. Your closing remark, please.
My remark will go back to Kwame Nkrumah's vision very quickly, that everything that exists in complex forces. And so as we are educating and re-educating ourselves, learning, relearning, and unlearning this information, what we need to do is to also note that African unity is submerged in this vision of Nkrumah that the complex force. We have to deal with what I call systemic dynamics, how the international systems affect our unity itself, and also structural paralysis, the breakdown in our own socioeconomic and political systems have to be tackled squarely before we can find the true meaning of unity. Thank you.
Last but not the least, Siddiq will come in, but in fact, I have to do this special thanks to our producers in Ghana today, Bismarck Ose and DJ Like. Thank you so much. They are still on controls here. But right here in the big US of A, in the heart of the city of Newark, New Jersey, we have Jersey Ghana Radio. And Siddiq Abubakar, please, the culture is yours. Go ahead and close it for us.
Thank you, Brother
And your own contribution then.
Thank you. Well, let me start with my contribution. I think what I was going to say initially was as part of what our panelists have talked about in terms of information, learning, relearning, dislearning, and appreciating what Nkrumah stood for. In recent documents that have been declassified by the CIA, we get a bigger glimpse of what actually took place that led to the overthrow of Kwame Nkrumah. And we know the CIA's involvement, and we know the people they were dealing with on the ground that led the coup. So we shouldn't underestimate or undercut the contribution of the United States government in general in the overthrow of Kwame Nkrumah. It's not necessarily just what was going on the ground in Ghana. but also what this country was doing in its own quote and unquote national security interest. That shouldn't be left out because it's very important, even in considering what is going on in Ghana today and in other parts of the world strategically. Now, in closing, let me say this. Samia, Honorable, I thank you very much for accepting the invitation to join us and discuss the legacy of a man we can all call our father, a mentor in progress, and a true Pan-Africanist. And we, in all that we can say, with all the greatness in him and all the faults as a human being, he's one we can still light up a candle in worship to his, what do you call it, progressive thinking. They say, woe betide him who teaches men faster than they can learn. And the tragedy of someone like Kwame Nkrumah was that he was teaching and doing things that were more than 50 years ahead of his time. So we had a problem with that, and it's an existential problem. With our other guests, Docs and professors, we are so grateful for your presence and your sharing with us this platform for today and this weekend. We know you have more than 1 million things you could be doing this weekend, but you are with us to share with us knowledge that we otherwise wouldn't have. So thank you. And to our listeners, we're grateful all the time for you being here with us. You all have a great weekend. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye, Auntie Samia.
Bye-bye.
Honorable, see you soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks very much. Bye.
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 Jersey Ghana Radio, yet to so. 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 Jersey Ghana Radio, yet to so.